Hi everyone, my name is Bella and welcome back to another installment of Breaking the Stigma. Today I want to talk about something that is a really important topic to me and something I really struggled with last year when I was kind of going through the brunt of all my issues. And that is self-acceptance. So there are two parts that I want to do to this topic because I feel like there were, at least in my case personally, there were two sides of this issue that I really struggled with. Now, on one hand, I really struggled with seeing myself as a good person. I couldn't accept myself as a person. I thought that I was terrible, that I was mean, that I was rude, that I basically hurt anyone that came into my life. I convinced myself that I was worthless, which is absolutely no way anyone should ever live their life. It's terrible. Take it from me, I know. And then the other topic that I really want to talk about is your physical appearance and how you can accept yourself and how you look physically. For me, I have always struggled with body image issues. I have always seen myself as unfit, unhealthy. Even when I was like hardcore dieting and exercising, it was still never good enough for me. And up until recently, I really haven't been able to look at myself in the mirror and say, you look great, you look fine, you don't need to change anything about yourself. And let me tell you, once you get to that point, it's really liberating. So I want to tell you both of those stories of how I came to accept myself as a person and how I came to accept myself physically. But as I said before, they're kind of two completely different stories, so I think I'm going to break it up into two different videos. So today, I'm mainly focusing on the personality aspect of self-acceptance. So here we go. Last year was really difficult for me. 2018 into 2019, pretty much most of my sophomore year of college, I just saw myself as stupid and worthless and ugly on the inside and out, which, like I said before, that's really no way that you should ever live your life. It's very detrimental to your mental health. Um, Something that my therapist told me that in my instance, in my case, I really see how this applies is that anxiety and depression tend to work with each other. Once you experience one, it's significantly easier to experience the other. And in my case, I 100% saw that. I always had anxiety over people liking me, if I did something to hurt someone, if I'm annoying people. And because of that, I just got so nervous and anxious about being around these people that I started to isolate myself. I convinced myself that I was such a terrible person, that I was always hurting the people that were around me and that loved me, and that because I loved them so much, the best thing for me to do for them would be just to take myself out of the equation, which is really sad thinking about it now, because now, like in hindsight, I know how much everyone loved me at any point in my life. No one ever hated me, and how much support and love that they were all willing to give me at the time. But, those anxieties, they get stuck in your head. Like I said before, we have that evil little voice convincing us that no one's there for us and no one's on our side. So, like I said, I began to isolate myself. I never really made time for any of my friends. I never made time for my loved ones that weren't up at school with me. I started cutting people that I had in my everyday life completely out of the equation, not to mention that I wouldn't even try to reach out to people that I didn't see in my everyday life. I managed to isolate myself from my family, my roommates, which, hello, I live with them. How bad must I have been if I could isolate myself from the people that I live with? And I especially isolated myself from my boyfriend because I was afraid that if he ever found out all this stuff that was going on in my head and he ever saw what I thought were my true colors, that he was going to want to break up with me. And that was not the case at all, by the way. When I finally was able to tell him, he was so loving and supportive of me. So thank you for that, Neeraj. But that's just what I convinced myself at the time. I convinced myself that no one would want to help me and no one would want to go through this with me. And that just kind of put me into a downhill spiral. Things just kept on getting worse and worse. It's kind of like you're stuck in this sick, twisted loop. You are convinced that someone is upset with you So you isolate yourself from them, and then you kind of start to overthink what you did. And then it gets even worse, and you convince yourself you're an even worse person. And like I said, you just keep on going downhill once you get yourself stuck in that pattern. Unless if you really do something drastic to try and change up that pattern, you're not going to get out of it just by trying to ignore it. Now, I know in my last video I did say try and do something to distract yourself, which I think is a great idea just to get yourself out of that mindset for the time being, but it is something that really needs to be seen head on. You need to deal with that issue head on, and you need to confront how you're feeling with yourself. And we'll get back to that in just a second. Last year, I convinced myself, and this was especially a toxic trait that I had for myself. I used to convince myself that if anyone ever treated me poorly, that it was because of something I did. And I feel like I've seen a lot of people do this, so this is why I really want to talk about this right now, too. If you are ever feeling the way that I did, please do not convince yourself that you deserve to be treated poorly, because you don't. Let me tell you, no matter how bad of a person you think you are, you do not deserve to be treated poorly. People cannot walk all over you. People cannot blame every little thing that happens in their life on you. And that's something that happened with me with a few different people in my life. And you need to learn that you can't accept it when people treat you like that. So that's just another little interesting tidbit that I wanted to put in there for all of you guys. Always make sure that not only you respect yourself, but make sure that other people respect you too, because you deserve that. So anyways, let's get into some of the coping mechanisms that I use to help myself get out of this feeling, to get out of those moods when I was feeling like I was worthless. So this is something that my therapist told me to do. It's almost like positive affirmations. When you feel like you just had a terrible day and you felt like no one loves you, you were so lonely, and all these bad things happened, when you go to bed at night or when you wake up or whatever the most convenient time is for you, you should try and name 3 good things that have happened to you so far that day. And a lot of these things that I did at first seemed so pointless and so simple, like, hi, I'm severely depressed, and you want me to just say 3 good things that happened to me this day, and that's gonna magically make me better? I get it. I thought the exact same thing as you guys. I thought that it wasn't gonna work. And unfortunately, for a little while, I kind of delayed my healing process because I wouldn't allow myself to do that because I thought, this is so stupid. There's no way it's gonna help. Well, eventually you get to a point where you will want to try anything that anyone suggests to you. You know, within reason, please don't do anything stupid. But, you know, I eventually got to that point where I was like, okay, I mean, it can't hurt to try. So I tried it and nothing happened right away. Like I was expecting it to. But I forced myself to continue to try and say these 3 positive affirmations every day. And like with anything, it takes practice. You really need to work on doing this kind of stuff and forcing yourself to do it, because you're probably not going to want to do it at first. And eventually, saying those 3 good things that happened to me did start to kind of bring my spirits up a little bit. Another thing that I did was I used to look at myself in the mirror and say 3 good things about myself, or as many as you want. It doesn't have to be 3. If you can go ahead and get 5, hell, if you can go out and get 10 good things about yourself out there, do it, because you deserve it. But anyways, I would start to look in the mirror and physically say out loud these things about my personality that I liked about myself. Like, for example, I am really into my education. I want to be a doctor someday. And that's something I used to really use to bring myself up and try and like give myself meaning. You work so hard in school, you're so passionate about medicine, you're so passionate about helping people. There's 3 things right there. And once again, didn't feel great. It didn't immediately help me out right away. But as I did it more and as I practiced it more, those things really began to stick with me, and I really started to see a lot of the positive things within myself. And I was even able to come up with more meaningful things. Like, you know, when I first started off, I'd be like, hey, You have a good smile. Something just kind of small, but sometimes that's all you can come up with, and you still need to get those positive things out there, so that works. But then you kind of get into the more meaningful ideas once you do it more, and you really start to see yourself in a different light. It's kind of like whatever you put out there will start to manifest itself. If you put good and positive thoughts about yourself out there, then you're going to start to feel like that about yourself. And you're going to finally get the courage that you need to convince yourself that you are worth other people's time, and that other people are there for you and they are there to help you. And hopefully you can use that to kind of get the ball rolling and go see people that can help you out, like professionals like a psychiatrist or a psychologist, or even just talking about these issues with people so they can understand where you're coming from. Because trust me, when people don't understand what's going on, they just think, oh, hey, you're kind of acting weird. What's up with you? Like, they obviously understand that something's up, but they don't understand every little detail that's going on in your head. So if you can get yourself to that point to be able to talk about it, that's kind of the entire point of this channel. I really encourage you to do that. It will make things a lot better. So that's all I have for right now. If you guys have any other topics that you'd really like for me to talk about, please DM me on any of my social media or leave a comment. And also, as always, I'm going to post a link to the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. And I hope you all have an amazing week. Remember that you are worth it, you can do it, and you will get better. It does get better, okay? I love you all, and have a good week.